whether it is fornication, it's adultery, it's lying, it's stealing, it's murder, whatever the nature of sin. In love, we should correct people and continuously admonish them.
And even talking about abuse, even some pastors abuse their wives.
I think it is high time we begin to teach them that it isn't just about this woman is beautiful, this man is fine, so that you can point to people, this is my husband.
Exactly.
It takes a lot to be in marriage.
Oral sex has a lot of implications, and one of it is the fact that it is one of the easiest way for the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases.
Trying to get something from somewhere you don't like, you will chop their money, and that money you eat fufu with it can block your womb. There is a woman who is praying, but most of these young girls don't know that they are lying.
You see, so most married men go out there and lie to innocent girls.
That who told you are innocent? These hypocritic girls.
Some of the girls are innocent. Because I know some girls who will tell you that if you are married, forget.
Hello precious viewers, welcome to yet another beautiful weekend with us here on GTV Live. You know the program is Weekend Family Review with me, Johnny called Dollarich. Here we say we are bringing the families together, reshaping society for tomorrow's generations. Yes, we do believe in the next generations, because whatever that is happening now, we believe we can correct them so that generations after us will have a better days. I mean, their lives will be far better than what we are experiencing. That is the more reason why you should call somebody also to call somebody to watch the program. Still, we have our WhatsApp line up screen and our Facebook page, Weekend Review with Dollarich. Just get connected with us. Let's do the show together. Shortly, we'll bring you our topic of the week. Right back.
I'll walk closer now on the highway.
Dear precious one, come join hundreds of families praying to bring back the glory due them in their relationships, marriages, and businesses. The most dangerous side to life is fighting the battle of the unseen.
Weekend Review with Dollarich on GTV Live presents Redeeming the Family Glory, an atmosphere of worship and prayer to break bondages, curses, and to walk in liberty through a fulfilled life. GTV Live, your religion and culture channel, invites you to come intercede, rebuild, and restore the family glory.
The venue is ICGC, the Lost Tabernacle, Abofu, with Apostle Kwame Watson Sapon. Date Sunday, 11 December 2016. Time 8 a.m. sharp.
Theme: The Father's Blessing. Host pastor is Pastor Selina Q Albini.
Precious one, Evangelist Johnny Dollarich of Weekend Review Show on GTV Live believes it is not too late for you and your family. Come, redeem the family glory through relentless prayer.
I'll fear no evil. By the water, still my soul. My heart will trust in you. My heart will trust in you.
You're welcome back. Thank you so much for staying. And as I said earlier, we have our WhatsApp line up screen and our Facebook page, Weekend Review with Dollarich. Just get connected with us. Let's do the show together. Now, there's this issue we want to discuss on set today, and I have these personalities with me who are going to help us do this. But let me give you a little background. Have you realized that sometimes when somebody dies in the family, I mean, when you have a demise, sometimes there's this tussle here and there. We want to consider this topic, who buries the dead? And there are issues that sometimes surround some of these burial and all that, location, and who is entitled to do what. But let's trust God's grace that we'll be able to discuss this, that whatever challenge you have or might have gone through, some forgiveness here and there will happen, and some healing of some hearts will happen out there. And there will be some controversies here and there as well, but God's grace will find us through, and I will be able to stand firm for the family. I'll go straight to my far left. I have this wonderful man, pastor, and he will tell us who he is and where he's coming from. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
My viewers would like to know who you are.
I'm John Pipi. I'm a pastor of City of God Church in Accra.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How's the family?
They're doing good. Thank
Wow,
you.
Wow, you are looking good too.
Thank you. We'd like to be on a family program.
I know.
Because we also treasure and value family a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
And on my next to Dr. Pipi is also another beautiful. Let me use the word beautiful because he's very beautiful. Looking at his age, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And my viewers would like to know you.
I'm Reverend Mark Pickby of EP Church, Ghana, a retired pastor.
Wow, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And how are you? How is family?
Oh, fine.
Wow, thank God for your life. You're welcome once again.
Thank
you. On my immediate left is this, so to say, he looks like an American though, but bless you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
And my viewers would like to know you.
My name is Abraham Agbozo, and I'm a lawyer.
Have you ever lived in the States?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
You look like this half caste, black American.
Really?
Kind of, yeah.
I see. I don't know how to take that, but
you have to tell us.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome once again. And viewers, on that note, we want to consider our topic once again, and it says, who buries the dead? And I know there are so many controversies out there, but let me go to the man in the center, Mark. Quickly, he has a background of this issue, and he will tell us a bit about it, and I will take it from there. You're welcome once again.
Thank you.
Right. I do know that there's an issue that you have quite recently, and can you throw a little bit light on it for us to start with?
Right. Thank you. As I said, Reverend Mark Pipi of EP Church, Ghana. My wife, my late wife, Eunice Pipi, was also a pastor of the same church. We work together closely in the church and in the family. And everybody who knew us can testify how close we were as Christian husband and wife. And the Trinity principal, Reverend Dansu, once was joking that he will give us an award, husband award,
That's right.
when I visited the Trinity College when he was there, for how close we were. But it happened that she died last year. Today is the first anniversary, 23rd November 2015.
Wow. Our condolences.
Yeah. And as we both agreed as pastors, our wish was that we should be buried at my hometown should we pass on. That was the agreement between us.
Between you and your wife?
And my wife.
Right.
And when the incident happened that day, we met the family. And naturally, I presented this to them as the wish of both of us. Particularly, she made a fervent wish for that. And as Christians, more so, the two of us being pastors, none of us expected any untoward thing towards this wish. So I presented it at the family gathering. To my surprise, it wasn't accepted kindly by my wife's family, the wider family. And what is striking about it also was that those people who were to take decision in this matter, excuse me to say, were just, could be said that they were kids of today. The actual elder people are not there.
We're not there.
Now. But they had to take decision. And to my surprise, they said she would not be buried at my hometown as she wished. I took it as a joke. But when finally I realized that they were serious, I fell on some friends from the family whom to me, I trusted them as friends. But surprisingly, in face of tradition, there is no friend. I was denied attention.
Wow.
So when the friends also failed, I thought it wise to fall on my church leadership. I presented the whole thing to the church leadership, thinking they would use the church influence to prevail over the tradition.
Yeah.
But how? They told me finally that the church belief could not do anything about the traditional belief, because traditional belief supersedes Christian values. Wow! This is what my church can do for me in this crisis. I was disappointed that then my church too can be a protection to me in such a difficult situation. I didn't know what to do again. So, consulting my family people, we decided to yield to the storms.
That's right.
To have peace for the burial of my beloved wife, with only one request, that they should allow us to have the funeral service at her church, which has become our home, second home, Bando EP Church, where she worked and retired. That was also refused. The only thing they could concede to in the last thing is I could have few hours with her at Bando, my church. 4 o'clock, the body should arrive at Have. And you know, the hospital also delayed a bit, so the body, we managed to bring the body at Bando 4:30 thereabout, to stay with her. According to the stipulated time, we should arrive at Have by 4. When we were a bit late, delegation came again from Have, trying to come on to collect the body. Whilst my friends, relatives, particularly my brother, who took charge of everything, was not present to see the body. They wanted to take the body away. I pleaded, and they allowed few minutes for us to do that. And after that, the body was taken from our house at Bando to Have.
Okay. Just hold it right there. I will be with you soon. And if you are watching the program, this is the Weekend Review Show with me, Johnny called Dollarich. And we are discussing who buries the dead. And our daddy here is actually giving us a background of a story that he personally encountered that has to do with the late wife. And we want to discuss this issue because there are times that sometimes, you know, some of these things happen and one family stands at one end and the other, dragging issues here and there. But we want to see how best we can be able to even agree when it has to do with the dead. Sometimes you see families at loggerheads over a dead person. I wonder what that is all about. I'll come to you. Rev, let's look at the church, because he made mention of the church. At a point he thought he could fall on the church, for the church to be a support. But here is tradition as against spirituality or the church. I don't know. Do you have encounters like this, apart from this particular story? How do you handle yourself?
I think this is an old thing. Jesus himself had an encounter with tradition, and he had to tell the people, you have a crafty way of using your traditions to make null the word of
the
God.
word, that's right.
And when he said that, he was encountering a similar thing where people often give a lip service to worship of the true God. But the things that God wants to change about us, which is to do with compassion, love, and care, if those things are dominated by traditional values, we don't want them to be touched. And so Jesus said that to show that people often will give priority or precedence to tradition, where the things they've grown in, rather than the word of God, which is being given to them to transform them. So yes, Jesus experienced it, and we've known many things like that to do area of marriage, area of funerals. You will find that tradition will always be given supremacy.
That's right.
It's a very difficult thing, but actually it shouldn't be like that.
That brings me to this point. Is she from a royal home? I'm asking this question because sometimes there are some family members, because of their background, there's such prominence that they give some priority to certain things, irrespective of who you are married to or where you've been. When it has to do with the family and their background, they don't joke with it. How was her background like? Is she from a royal home or just a normal home? How was her relationship with the family?
Both of us are from royal homes. But we gave that in to tradition. Just as the burial of chiefs are defined in society. I don't think it's normal to bury also a royal pastor in the way they bury royal chiefs. There's distinction between the two, depending on their beliefs and values. So it wasn't a problem to us. They claim she was from royal family anyway. But they didn't bury her as a royal.
I know some of these things have some legal tussle also here and there, but we'll get to the legal aspect of it. And then I do know that you're also coming from a background that some issues, relatively to what we are discussing, is at your doorstep. Bring in your questions and your, whatever comments you have via WhatsApp line, up screen, and our Facebook page. We can review with Dollarich. If there's anything you can share with us personally, we are ready also to listen to you. But let me go to the legal man on the set. How do we define some of these things? Because tradition and Christianity, I believe, should be able to coexist, right? But legally, how do we handle a situation whereby the demise of your loved one has to, bring you some kind of discomfort because the family of your late wife or husband feel like, okay, fine, you can keep your church or you can be your Christian, but this is traditional thing. How do we handle it from there?
Well, first of all, I think thank you very much. It's important to state the position of the law on this matter. The law is that the deceased corpse belongs to the wider family. Under customary law. So if the deceased family is patrilineal in inheritance or matrilineal, it will devolve to one of the families.
That's right.
That's the position of the law.
That's right.
And as Pastor Pipi has said, there's an inherent tension between what, as Christians, you leave your family and you are exhorted to cling to your wife, and then you belong to each other.
That's right.
So there's an inherent tension between what the law says in our under our laws and what the Christians practice. But
let's look at it. The law will define, okay, fine, if you are coming from this background, when anytime you die, a disease, somebody goes into his home, let's bring him to the tradition. The tradition have to take over. your family are supposed to bury you. You've lived your life with the person for all your life. I mean, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, you become so bonded. And now, I wouldn't say you have to throw away your family, no, which is not right though. But can't the family, because you marry into a family, can't the family have a mutual agreement, understanding as to the wish of the couple?
Now, the reality, so that's the law, stated what the law is. The reality is a lot of families, the extended family and the nuclear family, come to some kind of a happy medium, a compromise. So basically what happens in a lot of cultures is that the family, the wider family, will superintend the funeral. And invariably, if you want to ask the family, you can go to the family, and every family has, a culture has a way that you go and say, even though the body belongs to you, we would like to as the husband or the wife or the children, this is how you want like it to be. And in most times, they will agree to that in the spirit of negotiation, the spirit of understanding that this person who belongs to the wider family, however, has been married to this person for maybe 50, 60 years. So invariably, there's some kind of compromise, and then everybody is happy. In some other times, you have the situation that
like this
Reverend has, which is unfortunate, really unfortunate.
Rev, let me, Dr. Pipi, let me come to you. It looks like we have to really get this because the church, what tradition is tradition, but now the church is more or less the society. I mean, so many of us are in the church now. We belong to our background as well, who believe in their traditions and all that. Working around this tussle, let's see, if you being a man of God and your church member, dies, and probably you want to take the funeral up. Normally, you have negotiation with the family. They normally discuss all these things. But if the background of the person says, okay, fine, we don't want it this way. We want it this way. And they want to do away with the church. They don't want to respect the wish of the church and all that. How do you handle this?
Well, I was very close to this particular situation that is being described by my brother here. We were walking through his pain, his anguish, his difficulties that were compounding the loss of his wife, which was already colossal. To carry that whole thing on top of it was quite a major thing he had to work through. And as we tried to come to grips with it, we became aware that the law as stated, yes, the law has its reasons for being stated that way, but my key thing was the people who are closest to the deceased, they feel the pain most.
That's right.
If you want to put it in decibels, he was having like 110% decibels. Probably I would have 70%. Right. Extended family would be like 30. Some of the extended person just 5.
Even less.
Now, because of that, I felt that when you have pain, you want to express your love and concerns to the deceased in a way that's most befitting in your mind. So I felt that my brother, who is the widower, should have first place. His word should come should have been given due weight.
That's right.
And then the children, they should make this decision. But unfortunately, they were completely sidelined. They said, no, you have no say. Now, looking at the situation, I felt, no, what are we talking about here? People who were having the greatest pain, and interestingly, are going to foot the bill as well, were not being allowed to express their desires, neither were they being allowed to express the desires of the deceased either. Because of some kind of traditional law, I felt that law was not compassionate. It wasn't just. It wasn't actually caring. I mean, laws are made to make life easier for people.
That's right.
But if this one becomes oppressive, which is what I saw firsthand, it became an oppressive weapon in the hands of people who knew the law. I thought, we need to talk about this.
Imagine you are grieved and you have to go through such a denial of expressing your love. It's quite a terrible thing.
And one thing I found, Mr. Dollarich, was that as we discussed the issue, it became clear that we were facing although it was a funeral thing, we were actually discussing marriage. What do people understand about marriage?
That's right.
And what do Christians understand about marriage? They were poles apart. In a traditional sense, I think people will give you somebody to marry, but as far as you're concerned, they've loaned the person to you. And when she dies or when he's not, things don't go well, they just come and take their person. But actually, it's so different from God's viewpoint in the scriptures. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and his mother, shall cleave, which means to be joined, super glued to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So that understanding was what was in my brother's mind, was in his wife's mind when they said they wanted to be buried in the same place. And we all believe that. And presumably the church also believed that. But when it came down to it, the traditional understanding held sway, ruled over the biblical understanding of marriage. So this question is about who will bury the dead, but we need to start earlier. What actually do you do in marriage? When you say, who gives this woman away? Somebody gets up and said, I did. What have you done? Well, you have actually given her away. But it looks like when we do that in church, we don't understand what we've done.
That's right.
We want to come back 5 minutes later and take her back. You can't do that. So those, when a family, an extended family representative, usually the dad, is meant to say, I do. Little word, but it's very heavy and weighty. And I feel that to really begin to tackle this issue, we need to teach more and explain more what people are doing when they get married, so that at the end of their lives, they don't try to unravel what has been already tied up, which was a big thing for my brother.
Because looking at it, it's quite terrible, if you ask me. But let's look at this. When you were denied, I mean, like they were giving you the no to everything, what was going through your mind?
Well, I asked myself, what have I done to this family for them to treat me this way?
But I presume you had a good relationship with them.
But they themselves testify that I had been very good to them. At the family gathering too, they remarked it. Actually, you were fine. That's why I never expected them to turn this way in the event. So I was taking things for granted, that things will be well because of our faith. That's why it was really a shock to me when at the end of it all, I realized that they were not going to give in, to the extent that they wrote a letter to the head, to the head of my church, intending that they would take lawsuit if I wouldn't concede to their way, only to put injunction on the burial plan. I don't want that sort of thing for my wife, because she was a peaceful person.
That's right.
She took things more quietly than myself. So, but I said, with her disposition, I wouldn't like any riot to happen in her funeral. So I had to give in to all pressure to give her a fitting burial.
If you're watching the program, it is the weekend review show with me, Johnny, called Dollarich, and we are actually discussing who buries the dead. And if you are, I don't know about you, but imagine you have a good relationship with your wife or your husband. You come into terms, you agree on something that, peradventure, when one, is called into glory, what you want your back, like they say, should be. And family, the two of you agree on something, and family also come in and they tell your husband or your wife that, no, our tradition, this is our belief, we will not agree to whatever you and your husband or you and your wife took that decision. We were not part of it, and this is what we want to do. It's quite a terrible thing, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And do you really have to go and tell your family member this is the kind of understanding you have come into? I mean, do you have to discuss your future, how you want to be buried, how you want your life to be with your family? do you really have to do that?
I thought I would ask lawyer Bozo here.
Please.
So who actually owns my body?
That's right.
I mean, I'm free to will my house, my property, my land to whoever I want to give it to, my clothes.
That's right.
Why can't I will my body to be buried here? Can you? Is there any who actually has final authority?
Again, the one of the seminal cases in our law courts that decided on this matter, basically in essence said that your chattel, your immovable property, is your property. Your body, your corpse, is not your property.
Right.
Wow.
So under our laws, you can will your house, you can devise your house, you can devise your household items, but this body does not belong to you. That is the law. Wow. Now I think we have to go further to ask what the rationale may be. I think a lot of us practice a lot of customary practices. I don't think we ever really try to articulate the rationale, and they always have a rationale. Now the rationale may be outdated, and according to the evolving standards of decency, we must be updating these rules.
That's right.
I think that you remember that under our traditional law, when a deceased died, at least in some parts of the country, his property goes to the family. That's the law in some of the areas, and especially in the Akan communities.
They normally come. Yeah.
Now, the corollary to that is that if all the money, all the property is coming to you, then you must bear the responsibility of burying the dead because everything is devolving to you. That rationale, that argument is undermined by the interstate succession law. Because under the interstate succession law, when you die, majority of your wealth goes to your family. And the extended family.
A family. What do you mean?
As in your nuclear family.
Nuclear family.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the extended family gets a part, but they get a minority of what you own. So where the rationale may be that under our customary law, because the majority comes, the wider family, they bear the responsibility. Now it's not the case. And I think it's time to examine this law and so that we can evolve it to the point and catch up with what our law says now. So there's consistency in the law.
So as it stands now, looking at the interstate succession law that you just stated, if I will everything to my wife and the kids, but when I die, the body have to go to my family, who are supposed to be the owners of the body. Now, but here is the case. Let's look at it critically. Can't we just have a level field of play where you have the families, either the nuclear family or the extended family, have a mutual somewhere. There should be some cutting edge, something that both of them can agree on as to whether properties go here or body remains here. We can all come together and agree on something, as in his case, so that you don't get to, the person is already grieved, and you grieve him on top of it. He said, no, we won't give you the body, we will not mind you.
I'll take a first stab at this, and Pastor can come in. I think that a lot of families use this law vindictively.
Oh, okay.
So whether you die interstate, in which case the nuclear family gets majority of the spoils, if you like.
That's right.
Or you will your property to your wife and children. Now, they, in the wider family, because the body belongs to them under our laws, use it to extort money. And there are countless examples of a family requiring that you build a house in the family house before they allow you to bury your mother or your father. I think that that practice and that use of this law is one thing that must also be examined. The truth is, I haven't said that, the truth is, a lot of the families come together, like I said earlier, both the wider family, extended family, and the nuclear family to give you a fitting burial. And there's negotiations, there's compromise, and that's what happens in the majority of cases.
Okay, that's right.
Which is the way it should be.
Okay, all right. But let me still come back to you. You see, I don't know, but as it stands now, there's no legal claim. He cannot have any legal claim, not even in his case, but any other person. Let's say when something of this sort happens, you cannot seek legal advice as to what to do to be able to, because in his, I mean, you've loved your wife, you've loved your husband, and you really want to do something to at least to kind of give the person a befitting buy or something.
You mean legal recourse?
That's right.
Well, you can't seek legal recourse, but the law is clear.
Yeah.
So just like he's saying, when he had tried to insist, they said we'll sue you, because they maybe have been advised by a lawyer that that if you go to court, you have the right.
The law was on their side.
The law is on their side.
So yes, you do have legal recourse, but the law is clear on who the body belongs. So the answer is, should we then be the next step is discussing whether how to reform this law?
Yeah.
Do you understand? I think that's the next step. But the law is clear. There's no doubt what the law says.
Yeah. Reverend, you have something to say?
Yes. When we were looking into this, we became aware that maybe this law, I don't know exactly how old it is, but it must have been crafted at a time in our history where the definition of family was entirely extended family.
Yes, right.
And also the issues around people dying were such that the extended family were probably better positioned to care to provide a funeral, proper funeral, than the nuclear family. That, I think, must be the age, that period. Now, fast track to where we are now. So the law may have had a good intentions at the time. Right. But because things have changed and people are now abusing it, it's very important that we re-examine, first of all, the position of this law and say and look at it, first of all, in the light of the scriptures. For example, in a slightly different context, the scriptures teach us that the body of a wife does not belong to her alone, but to her husband.
That's right.
And the body of a husband does not belong to him alone,
that's right,
but to his wife. Well, obviously, it was in the context of sexual intimacy.
That's right.
So we don't want to make too much of it, but that's an indication of what God thinks about this body of mine. If he didn't offer it to anybody else in the scriptures, right, but at least in that context, he offers my body to my wife, offers her body to me, which tells us that actually we one flesh. I own my wife, she owns me. And that is a key thing that we should have to bring up and see how that can be expressed. And I think to carry that truth through to a place of application in our lives, to develop a new culture which reflects biblical values, I think it should be a simple matter of saying, when a person dies, what does the husband want to do? And that should be the final case. What does the wife want to do if she happens to be alive? That should be the final case. Of course, we want to interact with family, but somehow the law should be reformed to back or to back what the scriptures say, or to back our understanding, because most of the scriptures, all of the scriptures I say, are designed to bring freedom, liberty, better life for us. And so we need to let that light of Christ come through.
That's right.
And change these things. Then this kind of thing will not be going on. And quite frankly, the other thing I needed to mention was how I find that, bottom line, the struggle over the dead body was not to do with love per se from the extended family, but they were looking to, I need to say this, the donations
that will come in
accompany this presumably big burial, because she was a big woman, high up in the church, a pastor.
And that's what happened all over the place.
Okay, so the donations, so it's almost like a mercenary now. It's a mercenary thing rather than a care and a love thing. The sort of thing people do when there's an accident, people go stealing wallets and people's phones, and then with dead bodies around. That's mercenary. That's evil.
But
yeah.
okay, not to cut
Yeah, okay.
you though, but from the point you are raising,
Yeah.
you see, they normally say, you know, the family brought the person up, and then when the person is no more,
Yeah.
definitely they are supposed to have their whatever and I don't know whether
their
to
share.
their share.
I
or
see.
whatever. I don't know if that makes any sense out there. But let's look at it. I want to find out something legally. If you don't have any claim over the body of your wife or your husband, and the family want to kind of have everything, I mean, autonomous, I mean, they want to handle everything by themselves. There are some people who come from such families who have been neglected. Like, you don't kind of like, they don't have any relationship with the family. You know, you marry the person from, I won't say from the streets, but the person has been rejected or ignored by the family. But when the person dies, you kind of have the family coming. They really want their they call it, or they share their precious son or daughter. But you know, can the law do something?
Well, again, like I said, the law as it stands now cannot do anything about it. But we can. But you're right. I mean, there's a disconnect between what the law tries to achieve in providing some kind of social welfare, where as between the widower and the family, and and this is another position taken, articulating the rationale, as between the widower and the family, the person best placed to give a fitting burial will probably be the family, because they have there's a wider group, and they have but having said that, again, like Pastor said, people use it to extort in a mercenary way. So obviously something has to be done.
Definitely.
And indeed, if you look at Article 39 of our Constitution, and I'll read it out, the state shall ensure that appropriate customary and cultural values are adapted and developed as an integral part of the growing needs of the society as a whole. And in particular, that traditional practices which are injurious to the health and well-being of the person are abolished. So there's a window under the Constitution to do something about this, because the Constitution envisages that certain cultural practices will be abused and they'll be injurious to the health of the person, the same people that it seeks to protect. And there's abounds examples of how this law has been abused to serve the interest of the wider family.
If you're watching the program still continues, and it is the weekend family review show with me, Johnny, called Dollarich, and we are discussing who owns the dead, the corpse, or who buries the dead. I mean, that tussle, that sometimes some families, interestingly, I've come across countless number of issues that some dead or some corpse are kept even in the morgue for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, simply because there's no understanding as to who buries the dead. I wonder what kind of society we are in now. And the other tussle about religion, I mean Christianity or religion and the tradition and all that. Let's see if you are watching the program, is there any input you can do out there legally or morally. You can put it across for things to change. I think it will be the best. And you can also give us a WhatsApp through our WhatsApp line and our Facebook page, Weekend Review with Dollarich. Just get connected with us. Let's do the show together. I know you are discussing your own things out there, but we'll see. Let's see how best it goes. Let me come to you. It's quite difficult. I mean, it's a challenging time. I can understand what you went through at that time, but I'm sure by now you are healed in a way. If any forgiveness or to go forth, I'm sure you've done it, because I'm holding on to some of these things can only hurt you more and more and more. But let's speak the truth. If your wife agreed with you, you also agreed with your wife over something, like this is what we want our latter days to be like, and family came in and they said no, you had your marriage, even though you married the woman from the family, but they are thinking that, oh, your marriage is different from what we think or what we believe in. As you are you're on this set, what can you say to people out there? Is there anything you can say that today, if these things should change, it will help?
Yeah. That is the very reason why we are here.
That's right.
And I'm grateful. And permit me to quote Martin Luther King, a civil rights fighter.
That's right.
What he said. He said, I quote, Martin Luther King, Baptist minister and civil rights activist in America, was worried about the apathy on the part of people in the midst of oppressive practices, acknowledge that the dangers of the society are not the injustices or the oppressive forces, but the silence over it by the good people of America. So in this vein,
And the good people of Ghana.
the good people of Ghana,
that's right,
should no longer be silent over these injustices being meted against a deceased family. That's why we are here. Let us see the injustices involved in it. Should we continue to be silent over it for people to continue to suffer? That's why we are here.
I do believe the Christian Council and all people involved will take note of such a thing. And let's look at it. I don't know, from the clergy, you know, tradition and Christianity, I don't know if there's a thin line of differences, or is there anything that will be able to work around so that some of these things, because it looks like there's a conflict of interest here and there.
I think that we need to understand that every culture has its own traditions, but in every culture we have traditions which are good and they should be kept and protected. We have traditions which are neutral. So when I say good, for example, like very hospitable people in Ghana, it's our tradition to even offer our bedrooms to visitors, that kind of thing. It's a tradition that we should really uphold, hospitality, because it agrees with Christ, the teaching of the scriptures. Then there is obviously the whole thing of some traditions are neutral. For example, the food you eat or drink, it has nothing to do with, you can eat anything.
That's right.
So long as you give thanks for it. And then, but then there are some elements of our culture which are wrong, which are actually evil. For example, we all know, you know, a few decades ago when a chief dies, somebody will be dispatched.
That's right.
Will be killed and dispatched to go and attend to him in the other world. I use an extreme example.
That's right.
So we now, I hope we all agree that we don't want to do that anymore. We've stopped that.
That's right.
So that's still tradition. But we've come to see that that was wrong. That was against the will of God, which is don't kill and things like that. So in this case as well, we should use those eyes to look at everything that we do. Does the element of this tradition, does it agree with biblical revelation? Then of course let's do it. But if it doesn't, we should be clear and work hard to throw it away, get rid of it, in order that we have something else from God to replace it, so that increasingly the light of God will become evident in our lives. So our culture will become more and more full of light than the darkness. That is God's will for us. So but it requires prophetic leadership with a prophetic vision to know that the things that God is showing us in the church, they're not meant for the church in church alone. They're meant for us to take and transform society. Society can only be transformed with revelation. The slave trade was transformed by revelation from the scriptures. All these big things that have, like racism, only scriptures will have an answer to it. All these big things. And so I really want to make a plea that the church should rise up and take on this work of transforming cultures as a big task. So people should spend time and think and work through these things and forge a way and be able to bring answers that releases people. So, as my brother said, we will no longer have to keep suffering for this again and again and again. That will be my plea to us in the church in this nation.
Wow, it is well. It is well. But there's something that came to mind. Let me find out from you. If let's say, in this case, we know now the law is clear that the background family has the right over the death of any person out there. So whatever, but if you really want to do something for your wife or your husband, and the background is refusing you, but to you, this is what you want to do. If they refuse you, do you just wash your hands off it, or you have to agree or understand what they are saying and go by it according to what the law is?
Well, I think that's a practical matter, knowing that you do not have a right to the corpse. The prudent thing to do is to go back and sit with them and strike a deal, compromise, negotiate, come to some kind of understanding with them. I think that would be the practical way to approach this.
I see. Now, let me find out from you. When they denied you, right, you went to the church, you wanted the church to intervene and to also come in to say something. When the church finally sat, they realized they were limited because tradition superpass, whatever they want to do. How does it make you feel? Knowing that tradition is tradition and the church cannot go into those territories. They cannot override whatever the law says or what the tradition has to say. What does it make? Being a pastor yourself.
Thank you very much. That is what I had said, that I felt bad about it. That even church cannot be a protection to her members in such situations. I feel personally that it's time that Christian Council took interest in these social events. They have been doing much, but I wonder why up till now Christian Church of Ghana have not done anything on this social issue. Whilst it has been happening and they have been experiencing it. So my prayer at this meeting is, when they listen, they should be the first people to take action collectively. Let us examine our traditional laws against our Christian belief, what we teach as church. What can we do about it in the face of the law? Then the Christian church and the law of the land agents come together to resolve this. Since personally individuals cannot do it, but collectively as a church with a force, they can also bring their belief to bear on these traditions. And I feel that we shall have a way forward.
The program still continues, and it is the Weekend Family Review Show with me, Johnny Cole, Dollarich. Now, it's getting quite heavy. I know you're asking yourself so many questions, and we still have our WhatsApp line up screen and our Facebook page, Weekend Review with Dollarich. Just get connected with us. Let's do the show together. Now, I'm coming to ask this question, and let's look at it. Now, if somebody does a will, and I know a will is a legal document, right? Fine. I do a will. I want my wife to be buried in a piece of property we bought in Accra, in central region, or maybe in Kumasi, or maybe in the UK, London, or something. And the demise of the person is here, and now the family are saying that, well, you did your will, and we traditionally, no, we cannot allow you to bury our, or this year, like they say, our family member in UK, in London, in Kumasi. No, bring the person home. How do you handle this challenge?
Well, first of all, let's put our mind to, when is a will read?
Okay.
After the person is buried.
That's right.
So before we read your contents of your will to find out whether you wanted to be buried in London or Accra, you're buried. Okay. So the will is not an effective instrument.
it's only effective after.
It is effective, but I'm saying that your will is invariably read after you're buried.
Okay.
So if you say that I want to be buried in Selkwal, well, by the time the will is read, you're probably buried. So it's not an effective way of doing that.
Okay.
But secondly, the fact is you cannot do that, and the law has said that your body is not part of your property.
Wow.
So you cannot will what does not belong to you. You cannot bequeath what is not yours to bequeath.
As defined by the law now.
As defined by law. Well, we're a nation of laws.
Okay, so where did they get that law from, if I may ask?
Oh no, it's so the law from customary. They got it from customary law.
Okay.
So as the judges espouse, so this is found in the common law. It's not a statute.
Okay.
This is a common law. These are cases that the judges have ruled or have the judgments of judges, and that's what they have said, and that's the law.
Okay. You see, I'm asking this question because there are people who have bought pieces of properties, and they, after their life, they wish, okay, fine, I've done this edifice here, I want to be closer to wherever properties I've made, and some beliefs of some people, and you want to be buried here, but the family feels no, it's not about what you think, but it's what the family think. So how do
you see, like I said, a lot of the time there's always the family invariably just understands, and in a minority of cases, and I think Pastor would say no in a lot of cases, because I have examples where the family says I want to be buried, the disease says I want to be buried in the the Gethsemane, right? That's the most expensive burial ground right now, and the kids do it. I have a friend right now who's parent wants to bury them, and that's going to happen, and the family has no problem with that.
Okay.
So in majority of the cases, and as a law should work, they come together to do it. In the minority, where the family insists for different reasons, the thing is, there's nothing you can do.
There's nothing.
You got to, like our friend here, I'm not sure, said you have to compromise, you have to negotiate, and sometimes you pay a price. It's almost like you're paying to do what you want to do. You pay the family so that you can do what you want to do.
That's it. Now, Dr. let me find out from you. Somebody earlier has made mention of something that, for there to be mutual understanding or agreement for the dead to be buried at a different location, apart from what the family have agreed on, a price ought to be paid. How do you handle such?
I just think it's such a mercenary thing. I think it's wrong, but it's quite common. I know some places not only a price, but they will insist on the children of a deceased to come and build a house. I mean, a whole house in the village, which they will never go there, they will never use it. I think you mentioned that already. That's another charge on it. But this thing of, trying to make money when somebody is passed away should just stop. It is not a time to make money. You want to make money, go and set up a business. Go and set up a factory. Go and make a farm. You see, there are different things God has created for different purposes. Agriculture, business is for making money, whatever it is. Funerals are times for providing care and compassion for people who are hurting. Please, it's nothing to do with trying to make money. The same with marriages. Marriage is not a time to begin to pile on the dowries or to ask for these things to be paid or given to you. All these lists that people want to make money at a marriage ceremony, that's also wrong. It's wrong.
It is.
If you want money, go and trade.
I understand, but could this be, in your case or any other case, could it be that there's this understanding of punishment? Do you see it like they wanted to pay you back for something perhaps you might have done?
In my case, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
But can that be a factor as well?
That people want to pay back?
That's right.
A revenge? Well, I know in some cases the marriage was not right, and the guy must have abused the wife or failed to complete the customary requirements. So wider family feels this is a time to get back.
Get back.
But you see, I feel that at a point of death, it isn't a time for revenge, vindictiveness. Let me hit him on the right or left. That's not the time at all. People are hurting badly. And the least you want to do is to come and offer a helping hand.
That's right.
How can I help you? How can I support you? In order that to ease people's pain.
That's right.
So, different things are given for different functions. The whole funeral ceremony is designed to help the bereaved family to walk through it. So we just need some understanding and a change in our thinking to use things for what they have been created for. We tend to mix it up. That's why we find a lot of trouble like this.
As the law stands now, in your own words, I mean, if there's something that could be done, what should that be?
I think that I think the burial process and the law as it stands now is just the icing on the cake. There are a lot of fundamental questions we have to ask ourselves. Are we obsessed with dead people? I mean, our burials have become parties. Somebody does not get medical care before he dies. When he dies, we spend hundreds of thousands to bury that person. We spend all our weekends and our spare time going to funerals. We have to, in order to come up with a solution, we have to examine all these practices.
Yeah, absolutely. That should be another discussion
another day, shouldn't it? We'll work around that one. I say, let's say if there's something that could be done to let's say turn the clock backwards in your favor, what could that be? What would you have wished for, especially in your case?
Oh, that was what I was saying, that for future, to avoid this pain being repeated in other people's lives, something must be done about it. So if something is done about it, my wish would have been done. Yeah.
Surely your wish will surely be done. And Dr. Pipi, let's see your final words. I mean, now there's this sharp cut between the tradition and the church. You being a man of God, what is your cry for us as a people?
I will feel that in our minds we should exalt God's word and the things that he teaches us over and above our cultures and traditions. So we should receive God's word as a transforming power that is meant to bring freedom and liberty and prosperity to our lives, actually. So it will be very, very important that we see what God is bringing to us as a very positive thing and willing to submit all the traditions we've known for years under it. And we shall be greatly blessed in this nation.
Amen to that.
Thank you.
And the program is Weekend Family Review with me, Johnny Dollarich. Now, thank you so much for being part of the show. And I want to say a big thank you also to Dr. Pipi for passing through and sharing with us this touching story. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
My daddy, Mark Pipi, thank you also for coming. And my lawyer, legal man, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, we'll see you same time next week. But remember, whatever that is happening out there, if only we can get closer to God, He's able to work all out for us to be victorious. Now, I know you have similar issues. There are things that some of us are still holding on to it, and even forgiving our family has become a challenge. But trust me, if you can let go now, you see the glory of God. Just forget about it and work out. Let's get the families together, sit them down, and be able to trash out some of these issues, because it's quite hurting. One, for you to lose your wife or your husband or your child, and the family also to come in with some of these torturing issues, and it's quite painful. But please, let's make life better, because on this program we say we are bringing the families together, reshaping society for tomorrow's generations. We want to live in harmony. Let God be our king now and forever. We'll see you same time next week. God bless you.